right. Good morning. I had to stop. I had a moment. And, whenever I'm on a time crunch, that really pushes me to make sure I'm staying on a good time frame. So, this is a good thing. You always have to know how to be flexible and know how to adjust. Like, these are skills. Okay. So, we're going to do our best today because I still have to, get my video out for you all for the day, and it's like I'm working with all types of like variables that are going on, and so yeah, I'm making my way through, and that's life, right? Like anytime you're in life and for real living, there's always going to be all types of things going on, but you have to keep your mind focused on God, right? And make sure that you're still, doing whatever it is that He's calling you to do. And so, yeah, for this morning, let me try and make it quick. I just went through a whole thing right now trying to figure out like what I wanted to do. But yeah, the scripture that I have for the day is going to be quick. The scripture that I have for the day follows up with yesterday's message or the day before, whichever day it was, talking about love, right? Because this is so important. And I really wanted to put this out there. Like I said before, it's all throughout the Bible talking about love. And yes, it's great to have self love when we're loving on ourselves, right? Because we need to be able to know how to do that effectively so that we can do it for others. So it's important to have self love, but it's also important for us to love on other people. But, right? Like, remember, I was talking about how love should be in everything that we do. And if you truly understand what love is, then you are for real able to give that to other people as well as see it in everything that's, going on in your world. Like it should be coming out literally in everything. And so today's scripture comes from James 2. And I found this to be very interesting because it goes into the whole society, right, with equity that I was talking about the other day, as far as how are we living in a world where some people, are living in excess and then other people are living in complete, lack, it's unfortunate, and it's something that again it goes on year after year, decades, and everyone's aware of it, but yet it's still this social issue, right? That we have. Like, I haven't known a time where it was not, occurring. And so it's so interesting to me how we can know about these things and it just be like matter of fact. And so I want to be, in that area, pushing that out as a call to action. Of course, things don't change overnight. And also, it's one of those things where, again, it starts with us. So one person doing something can definitely make a difference, even if it's just with a few. But I really want to push it out there, especially for those who are in excess. Okay. Like I said, I can relate to all different, audiences, all different types of people. And so, yeah, this is my call to action for everyone, but also to those who, for real, you're living in excess. Okay. James 2, if you go in there, it's talking about how you can see different people, right? You can see a person coming in and they don't have nothing, opposed to a person who, you know they come in, they have on all the fine clothing and the luxury items and things like that, and so people will treat them differently. You'll treat a person who's coming in wearing maybe rags or maybe something that isn't a name brand, or they don't look, like it's high end or what have you, and so they treat them a certain way, opposed to a person who comes in and they're well dressed, they have really nice clothes on or what have you. And it just shows you, right, that judgment and how, for real, this happens in society, right, all the time. I play with it all the time. Although, I pursue, like modeling and stuff stuff like that, I play around with different things. Like sometimes I want to wear name brand, sometimes I don't. Sometimes, I can look very well put together and it's stuff from the thrift, like most of the time it's from the thrift. And it's so interesting how seriously you will be treated differently based on, how you look or based on, like what you have on and things like that. And so when you're reading James, it's going into how he's pretty much saying, like, favoritism, right? Like, how are you picking and choosing how you're going to treat a person based on little things like that? Pretty much based on a judgment, perceiving them a certain way, and then treating them in that way, right? And so remember, we're talking about love here and how if you for real have love for yourself and you're able to do that for other people, God is telling us you treat other people like you want to be treated. So would you ever want to come into a place and be, judged based on what you're wearing? Would you ever want to be, in a space where you're being judged on just how you look? All these different things. And it's so interesting because then it goes into more detail, right? And it says, like, isn't this the truth that, God chooses the poor and blesses them, like with all of this faith, all this spiritual wealth. And even when you're looking throughout the Bible, you'll see different parts where he's saying, like, you already had your time to live in luxury. Like, you've already had your time to live, well and stuff like that, while other people were like living in need and living in want, all that type of stuff. And it's really something to think about. I don't know how often we talk about this, even with sermons. It's like, how often do you hear people talking about that? Because we live in a world where it's just like, let me check my time. We live in a world where seriously, it is a thing for you to be wealthy. It is a thing for you to have all of this tangible, possession of showing that you have a lot of things or that you have a lot of money. And then that means you are somebody or you are worthy. When in actuality, if you're speaking biblically or you're speaking spiritually, God is actually choosing those, who don't have much according to the world, but then giving them, so much in faith and so much in their spirit, right? And so it just makes you think, what's really going on here, right? Like, what's really going on here? More of a priority on what is most important. Right. And then he continues on when you're reading in James 2 about how mercy triumphs over judgment. Right. And so it's like those intangible things that we don't really value in this world, those are the things that are important to God. Right. So for those believers out there, those avid like Bible readers, those that are for real, you working on your spiritual, maturity and stuff like that, I'm challenging you today for real to be reflecting on this, especially if you're a person of wealth, like, physical wealth, I'll say, because look, the spiritually wealthy out here, okay, that's where it's at. There's nothing wrong with, living well and being wealthy physically too and prospering, but just be very mindful for those who are, in that category. Be very, mindful that there are people out here who are in need. There are people out here who are for real struggling. And if you think about it in the Bible, like in the way that they did it in the past, they had it where if it was somebody in need, people were selling their houses, people, were giving away things. And it's one of those things where it's like, for real, are we thinking about this? Like, is this important? Or are we for real just out here trying to build wealth and make sure that we're the most powerful and we have all the possessions and all the items and everything, and we don't care about anybody around us? Do you get what I'm saying? So again, my call to action for the day is for everyone, of course. Love is so important. It's the most powerful thing that you can have. We all know God is love. But at the same time, I'm doing all the different areas. Like, if you are a person who for real, you are in wealth, like you are for real physically wealthy, are you out here doing that? Are you out here for real making sure that you're spreading the wealth? Okay, like I'm serious. Like be out here spreading the wealth because you can't take any of it with you. And not only that, but God puts you in those positions so that you can be a blessing to others. It's not just so that He can lift you up and make you great and powerful. God ain't that type of God. He's very relational. You get what I'm saying? So if He's blessing you with something, please believe He's not just blessing you to just how you doing stuff. It's for you to be a blessing to others, a blessing on all occasions. So I'm calling to action for those who, for real, you living in wealth, you rich, you got some money, like get out here and spread it. Get out here and spread it. And for the people who, you know, you're that type of person that you judging others like based on what they look like. Oh, let me be friends with them, let me get close to them because they look like they got some money. Please believe I'm telling you, if I tell you this stuff, I've experienced it. It's like for real. Like, oh, does she look like she got some money? Like, let me get near her. Like, oh, look, what's she wearing? Like, where'd she get that from? Can I have that? Like, type of stuff. Like, if you're that type of person, understand, like, that's very superficial. Like, and God ain't about none of that. He could care less about any of these things. Like I said, I'm pursuing modeling. It's just like, I enjoy it, I like it, but that's not the reason why I'm pursuing it. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's a difference when it comes to, for real, what's most important to God, and for real, what love is about. And if you for real call yourself having love and you love yourself, then that means it doesn't matter what a person has on. It does not matter what they look like. It doesn't matter what they're saying. You're able to love them anyway, right? That's where that mercy thing comes from, where we're able to, be forgiving and to be merciful to one another, because we will want people to do that for us, right? But if you don't love yourself, right, like, it's going to be hard for you to do that for somebody else. If you haven't received mercy or you haven't received forgiveness, it's going to be hard for you to get that to other people. And so I'm calling to action for that too as well. Like, be very mindful of how you're treating one another, people around you. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter where they came from. It doesn't matter what's going on in their life. Like, if you for real loving on somebody, you are treating them how you want to be treated. And so I'm going to say today's message, check out James 2. I will read it to you, but I gotta go. And so I'm encouraging you to go check it out, read it, talk about it. I want to hear your thoughts, especially with it talking about, judging one another and the rich and the poor, and especially nowadays with what's going on in society and how it's kind of like that clash between, the wealthy and those that are in need, and politics and everything. And it's just like, biblically, God got something to say about that, right? And it is love. The answer is love. And so I would love to hear what you all have to say. And I'm definitely calling to action. I'm calling out the rich. I'm calling out the wealthy. Yes, I'm talking to you. And I'm calling out those that are in the middle class and in the lower class. Like, it's all mixed up nowadays because of how society is going. But yeah, I'm calling everybody out. Like, yeah, is love happening? And what does that even look like? Check out James 2 in the Bible, even if you're not a believer of God and you read, everybody reads, okay? Like, or you're an audio book listener, like, get in there and read that. And I want to hear some conversation. I want to see you all talking about this and picking each other brains and everything to see, like, what is this all about? Even when I was watching that movie, what is it, Highest to Lowest? Like, even that, very interesting. That was the first time I saw that in film, where it's for real going into, those different classes and what that would even look like, knowing a person coming from a certain background and then being in a position to actually do that for someone. You get what I'm saying? And so, these are the things, again, we don't talk about it openly. Right? I'm sure it happens amongst, friends and stuff like that, but what's your thoughts about this? Because we see what God thinks, right? He's prioritizing this as most valuable, but this world doesn't. So, yep, something for you to think about for the day. Very quick and sweet. So I shall talk to you all another time. Bye.